following announcement has been paid for by the Wrestling Epicenter.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, guys.
Hello, ladies. Remember me? Let me talk to you, dummies.
It's now time
It's beer time. TikTok.
It's showtime!
for the longest running wrestling talk show in history.
We are huge. It's gonna be cool.
You're where it's at.
You smell like me.
Tune in each and every week.
You better keep listening, or I'll come out of your computer
And turn it on for you.
or else I'm gonna kick your stinking teeth in.
We've been known by a few names.
The needs of the many far outweigh the needs of the few.
The Interactive Interview,
Interactive interview. Oh, yeah.
Interactive interview.
The interactive interview. Interactive interview. The interactive interview.
Interactive Wrestling Radio,
Interactive wrestling radio.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Interactive radio.
Interactive wrestling radio. Interactive wrestling radio.
The Blaze,
Blaze 1260 AM. The Blaze.
The Blaze.
Blaze. The Blaze Rock.
and a lot of other names.
Weekend Weird of Wrestling. The Pile Driver. The EPA Wrestling Center.
3 Count Wrestling.
The Hours Lab.
But it's all one show, the Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter. The Wrestling Epicenter.
The Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter, dude. The Wrestling Epicenter. Don't get off.
And your host from day one,
By ignorance or arrogance.
James Walsh.
Wake up, sleepyheads.
Dr. Carol House.
It all starts
What a rush. Oh, Boomer Sooner.
Thank you very much.
I got 2 words for you. Thumbs down. Breaking necks and cashing checks. Now, I've heard a lot about you guys.
Check it out. Get out of my face. You win!
But I'm desperately out of time!
So what you gonna do when Blaze-a-mania runs wild on you?
now.
Oh boy, what's up everybody? It is time for a great interview here from the Wrestling Epicenter. Truly a pleasure to have on a gentleman who is the son of a guest we had previously. We've done that a few times. We did that with Tully Blanchard and then had Tessa on. We did that with Bruno Sammartino and then had David on. We did that with Ric Flair and had David on. So we've done that a few times. I'm sure I'm probably missing a few, but this is always cool. And I'm having on Erik Watts, who had a heck of a career in his own right. Great interview with a guy. I told him at the beginning, well, let's try and go for about a half hour or so, because he just did a really great interview with a Australian guy who was wearing an LA Guns t-shirt. I don't know if that's copyright infringement on me or not. If you've ever seen me, I'm usually in a rock band t-shirt. LA Guns being one of my favorite bands. I have at least 5 concert tees of the Hollywood Vampires. But what can I tell you? He did a really great job with an interview that went hours and hours and hours long. This one, not quite as long. We tried to cover some unique ground that wasn't covered in that, if you can believe it. Some audio issues at times as he was up in the mountains. But I think you guys are really going to like this interview. And without any further delay, let's get right to it here at the Wrestling Epicenter.
Hey, this is Jerry Lynch, and you're listening to the Interactive Interview.
Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Joining us on the line right now is a gentleman whose father we had on almost 15 years ago to the day, and it's a pleasure to have him on. Believe it or not, in over 20 years of doing this, I've never had on Mr. Erik Watts. Are you with me, sir?
I am. That's a great story right there. 15 years ago, the Cowboy was on your show. That's fantastic.
I'm going to give you a little more of a story. My co-host at the time, and he's no longer my co-host, thought he was a little smarter than he was, and he got a little surly with your dad, and your dad put him in his place. Now, thankfully, your dad seemed to like me okay, but my co-host he wasn't as keen on. So,
well, I'll tell you this much: anyone that knows Cowboy Bill Watts, anyone that watches him or loved him or followed him, anyone that worked for him, let me tell you that, whether they loved him or hated him, the one thing, and this means the world to me, because I've only heard this about 2 or 3 times in my life about different people, my father being one, the one thing that everyone says, like him, not like him, it doesn't matter. You know exactly where you stand with him. So I'm sure if your co-host was a little surly, I'm sure he straightened it out.
He sure did. He put him in his place, and it was pretty cool. I must admit it's something that I enjoyed listening to, especially because he wasn't mad at me, so that worked.
It does. It does help.
All right. Well, let's see here. Of course, we have Erik Watts on the phone. The first thing you got to ask is, what was it like growing up with your dad as the Cowboy, as Bill Watts? What was it like growing up in that amazing wrestling family?
Right. So, fantastic question. To put it in perspective, and I hope this doesn't. I hope this is not a letdown. The way I was raised in my house, I got this mother that was incredibly independent, from Estonia. Lived in deportation camps for 7 years as they escaped, as the Russian took them over, and they stayed together as a family, and they got sponsored by a church out of Oklahoma. That brought her to Oklahoma. So a very independent family, believed in freedom, believed in entrepreneurship. My father, as you get what you see of him, right? Another independent person, very high energetic, always pushing boundaries and growing and making things great. So he had his company, and he's running his company, and he's also working all the time. So he was gone literally all the time. If my dad was home 4 or 5 days a month, 6 days a month, on average for the majority of the time I lived there, which was all the way to college, of course. Other than the little reprieve between 83 to 85 or 84 to 85 my dad had, and then 86 and 87, which I graduated high school in 87, he was on the road all the time. He came in to cut checks, realistically. So we got a lot of wrestling. We got a lot of industry. Me and my brothers were on the summer. If we weren't at different wrestling camps, football camps, then we were on the road, putting up rings, selling T-shirts, doing it. So we were around the industry, but at the same time, the way we were raised, we're all to be individual entrepreneurs. So being raised by Cowboy Bill Watts, if you thought he was tough on TV, he was 100 times tougher at home. It just, there was no room for error. You had to think, and he was expecting you to, think about things and be smart.
Yes, sir.
And he had high expectations. So it was kind of crazy. And then, the way our house was running so fast, a lot of people later on, when we talk about our childhood, they go, that your childhood was crazy. It was crazy. I'm like, you know what? Now that I read about it, now that I hear me talking about it, yeah, it was pretty intense. But to every one of us kids, it was just a normal day, living,
right.
Living in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to jump around a little bit. I'm not going to keep you for a marathon today, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your venture into this world, into the world of professional wrestling. And the first time I saw you was probably the first time anybody saw you, which was on WCW Saturday night. Gosh, man, you guys had a hell of a roster then. I mean, you were in the same vein coming in with Chris Benoit, who was very young, very limited time that he spent there, but he did come in. You were there with the STF, doing the STF. I mean, there's a lot of young talent that came in right around the time that you made your debut. What was it like to go from nothingness to being basically on TBS programming in virtually no time at all?
Right. Going back to exactly the childhood, right? I came when I was at the University of Louisville. I was supposed to be in the draft as a quarterback. I wasn't going to go high. I didn't have as much playing time as other quarterbacks in the draft, so I was probably going to be between the 3rd and 5th round. When you have agents, they pretty much know where you're going to go. I was going to go to Tampa Bay or Cincinnati. And there's just a lot of kind of bad. I was just done with the politics in college football. Not for any reason. I wasn't mad. I was just exhausted. So I had made a promise, like all of us kids had a promise, that we could not get in the ring and work out as a pro wrestler until we got our degrees in college. So I had my degree. I'm sitting there. I only have 3 classes left, which I was going to take the fall semester to get my master's. I graduated with my first degree in 3 years. I was close to my master's. I went to Atlanta. Already had interviewed with Georgia Pacific and 1 or 2 other companies, FedEx. And I thought, okay, I'm setting this up. I'm either going to go, pro football, but I got to think about my education, because if it doesn't work. And I've always wanted to see what it's like to be in the ring. So called my dad and said, hey, do you know anyone that, can train or where there's a ring? He goes, by the way, a very good, friend of mine, an old friend of mine that we ran the road with, Jody Hamilton, the Masked Assassin. He's got a ring. Right. Yeah. Said he's got a ring in which a lot of guys go to from all federations and all independents, and he trains them. He goes, now he's got a pretty good feeder program going to WCW as well. I said, I just want to get in the ring. And so I went down, and later on, though, Jody Hamilton's school became the power plant for WCW.
Right.
And then after WWE ended up buying the WCW when they in bankruptcy court or whatever, he was one of the training facilities then for WWE. So I was there, and my plan was to go work out for about 21, 22, 23 days in Atlanta, and then go back and finish my master's. And so I had 21 days in the ring, I think, because I didn't miss a day. And the workouts were completely brutal. They took it serious. I think I did about 9 hours a day in the ring. That wasn't too normal. And then would go do weights and go back to bed. On the way back to Louisville, Dusty Rhodes called me and said, would you like to perform a match in front of someone to see what what it's like to be in front of someone? And I'm like, are you kidding me? He goes, nope, it's on your way back to Louisville in a little town called Cleveland. I think it's Cleveland, Tennessee, I believe. And he said, I said, sure. He goes, and I was flipping out because I'm like, I don't know what to wear. I don't have anything to wear. I had some football pants, so I cut those off. Had a jersey. I bought boots just to train in, just because I was wanting to, and that's why they're red, because of the University of Louisville. And so I go up there, and it was freaking phenomenal. It was crazy. As soon as I walk in there, right, I go to the dressing room, and there's Rick Steiner that I've known since I'm 13 years old, 14 years old, and he goes, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to get dressed. He goes, to do what? I said, I'm going to get to wrestle tonight. He goes, you're going to wrestle. I said, yeah. How long you been training? I go, 21 days. Which he's like, yeah, that sounds right. That's no one wrestles in 21 days, right? And I'm like, well, it's a match. I'm going to wrestle with Sarge. I've been working out with Sarge for the last 21, 23 days, whatever it is. I said, no big deal. And which was a huge deal, because I didn't, you only learn so much, right? And it's all called out in the ring. It's not like today where you go over and talk about it. And so he goes, well, I'm going to just let you know that you're a rookie and you don't dress in the dressing room. I go, where do I dress? He goes, in the concession stand. I go, excuse me? He goes, so my first match, I'm in Cleveland, I'm in Tennessee. And, I got a towel around me, trying to get dressed. There's women there selling popcorn and Coke going, why is this new dude getting dressed? And, I'm getting dressed and stretching out in the concession stand. And came around, did the match. Freaking fantastic time. It was more than I ever expected. Dusty had called me back and said, hey, I heard you did good. Why don't you try it one more time? Tomorrow night's in Knoxville, I think it was Knoxville or Nashville. And I said, really? One more time? He goes, yeah, then you got to get back to school. I said, yeah, I'll do it. And now, that time I got to calm down a little bit more, so I remembered a lot more what happened. because everything else was a flash at the beginning. And so Dusty talked to me again, called, and they said, what was it like? I go, I have never experienced anything like that in my life. I said, I've played in Tokyo, Japan, in a football game. I have played in the Fiesta Bowl against Alabama on TV. I have been in some of the biggest arenas ever, and I've never felt anything like that. And he goes, you're screwed. I go, excuse me? He goes, because you'll never lose that feeling, and you'll want to find it all the time. He goes, and that's exactly the way I thought you felt. He goes, you don't need to go back to get your master's. He said, you've got a job. I go, excuse me? And I said, I want to play my master's. He goes, I need you tomorrow night on Saturday Night Live TV. We'll have a contract down here for you. And right there, I made a choice. I was going to drive that 3 or 4 more hours to Louisville, but I got in my car and drove back to Atlanta. Called my fiance and said, hey, I know you got 1 more semester, but I'm a pro wrestler. And she was like, what are you talking about? And that's how it started, man. So like my 23rd
Did you ever go
wrestling,
back and finish?
No. And sometimes I wonder about that, you know. I mean, think about that, you know. I had 27 hours of 36 hours of my master's. But by the time I had even thought about going back, you know, there's certain rules. You know, even after like 5 years, you lose X number of credits. Well, by the time I even thought about going back, it was 10 plus years and literally 0 credits. They won't even honor a credit from back then. So, you know, I was lucky enough never to need it, but yeah, it would have been nice to finish. But realistically, looking back at it, man, you know, I lived my dream. So I got my doctorate in doing everything I love. How about that?
That's beautiful. I like that. That's a great quote. Was it Fiesta Bowl? Was that out here in Tempe?
Yeah, Tempe, Arizona, University of Alabama stomped the brains out, 34-7. They were
beautiful.
They were major. We were major underdogs, and it was huge controversy. We went 9-1-1 that year. Our team was so stacked, I can't even tell you, but still, we were Louisville, right? You know, we had been starting to prove ourselves, but still very small blip on the radar. And I can't remember. We were going to a bowl, and I can't remember who Alabama was supposed to play. And then that's right when they had a huge deal on, like, Martin Luther King and changing some streets and some names, and they wanted the MLK patch on the players or something. I can't remember what team it was. They basically said, no, we're not doing it. And so that bowl called the other bowl and said, hey, you know, Louisville's the next team in line. And that's kind of how, from what I remember our coach telling us, so we got the big show because back then before the playoff system, your 3 biggest bowls are always Fiesta Bowl, Orange Bowl, and Rose Bowl. The Cotton Bowl got it, but generally one of those 3 were telling the national championship every year. And so, you know, it was the big 3. It was the one always after January 1st. So it was huge. It was prime time. And it was just so sad because Alabama won the national championship the year after, and they were incredible that year. But they just put 2 teams that they were so overmatched and had no idea. They had no passing attack, and all we did was pass. And we stomped everyone's brains out that ran because, I mean, we sent, I think that year, we sent like 9 guys to the NFL.
Beautiful. That's awesome.
So it was great.
And I'm out here, I actually went to ASU, so the Sun Devil Stadium definitely has a place in my heart, so I'm glad it has a place in yours too. Very cool.
It's awesome. I was talking to a person the other day, and I do some business consulting, and they're out in Tempe. And so I was like laughing a little bit about it, and she's laughing. Awesome. I'm like, yeah. I said, you know, how everyone says it's a beautiful place, you know, no humidity. And she goes, let me tell you what I tell people about that. I go, yeah. She goes, yeah. your oven, set it at 450. It doesn't have any humidity either, and jump in it. I was like, I laughed so hard. I never heard anyone say that. She goes, yeah, ovens don't have humidity either, so why don't you just turn it up to 450 and jump in it?
Very cool. I went to go see a rock band about 10, 12 years ago, and the guy just flew over from Germany. He's an American band, but they got here, and he said he got out through the terminal, and he said he turned around to the pilot and said, "Is it possible we took a wrong turn and landed in hell?"
Exactly. Exactly. No. It's
all right. So here's my question here for you. Back to WCW. As a fan, you could see the changes. I mean, the changes in management were apparent even to a fan that was a kid at the time, and I was a kid. A lot of people, including the next guy who took over, Eric Bischoff, says negative things about the Watts era. Do you think he gets a bum rap for how he ran WCW in 1992, 1993?
Well, okay, but let's go with the fact that, remember, I was raised in the business. So many people think, so there's a key word there that few people truly understand, and that's the business. So more important than anything that fans see and don't see, it's the financial success of the company that allows it to do more R&D, more research, more marketing, more development, more of everything, correct? So when my father came in, I forgot what they were losing, $5 million a year, something like that. And,
yeah, a lot, yeah.
And so I don't... And had consecutively for like 7 years, and they were looking to not go out of business. So Cowboy Bill Watts comes in, father or no father, and he cuts in the first year from them losing millions upon millions upon millions every year for 10 years to square one, break even. Ted Turner was so blown away, it wasn't even funny. He was expecting, like, hey, look, can we turn this around in 3 years? Can we turn around in 4 years? So year one, they already quit losing and were at a break even. Now, what people most of the time they're talking about is when my dad wanted to reteach people the true art of pro wrestling, in which your beginning match lasted 5-6 minutes. No one jumped off a top rope. No one outside the ring. It was your very basic, hey, there's a good guy, there's a bad guy, basic, because that's what you did to warm up the crowd. And so the psychology and how you put together a phenomenal movie matters. I mean, let's just be honest. If Endgame started with the last scene, you wouldn't sit around to reverse watch the storyline. So yeah, he said, okay, I've told these guys, let me tell you how they'll stop. I'll pull the mats off the floor. I'll start finding them. I'll start doing this. Oh yeah, they hated it when he came in and said, no, you guys can't fly on the same airline. No, you can't share cars. No, you can't stay in the same dressing room. No, he just was wanting to bring it back so everyone could kind of breathe in. Now, just what you said earlier, there were so many new guys, and a lot of those new guys, it was just starting to get where they would talk over their matches a lot more. They weren't saying them in the ring. So that kind of hurt some people. So you got to understand, there were people that were scared because now they've got to find a new way to do business. You've got guys, especially at WCW, because I know them. I've been there, ECW, WCW, TNA, WWE, Japan, Germany. I've been. I know the ups and downs of all the contracts, ins and outs. So you had a whole bunch of spoiled people, and I'm not saying bad, but you were spoiled at WCW because you had a contract. Whether you wrestled once or you wrestled 1,000,000 times, you had your contract. And so I remember guys that when they would give the booking sheet, because they give you a booking sheet every 2 weeks, right? And they'd let you know what you're doing the next 2 weeks. They'd go, oh yes, 3 towns. I was like, what are you talking about? I got 14 towns. That's awesome. They're like, you want to go? I said, how am I going to learn if I'm not on the road? It was just so reverse pathetic. But I was also the only wrestler at the time, and I don't know if it ever happened afterwards. In my contract, I got bonused per match anytime I wrestled more than 23 days in a month. So I was trying to hit as often as possible. Oh my God, when they do the Twin Cities sometimes, and we'd have a Sunday morning and a Sunday night match, or go to a town. If I could get 2 shows in one day, you're the happiest guy you've ever seen in your life. You know, I wrestled over 305 events my first year. So I was sitting there going, hell yes, I get my guarantee plus I was racking up the frequent flyers, all the points, the rewards. I was in hog heaven, but I was watching these other guys, and you know what? Again, economics. I was incentivized to wrestle as much as I could, which I thought was an oxymoron because I could only learn by wrestling more.
Right.
and then you've got all these young guys, like you said, that needed to be in the ring, and they were like having a party every time they didn't have to be on the road. So now Bill Watts comes in, and the road gets tougher, things get more strict. So it depends on what critics you're listening to, because I have not heard anyone lately interview Ted Turner, because if anyone, because let me tell you this much: the amount of money that Eric Bischoff lost his last year capped anything in the history of pro wrestling losses, and the company ended up in bankruptcy, and Vince McMahon bought it, and Vince McMahon bought it for $1 million. So what cracks me up, and I have nothing against Eric Bischoff. From what I understand, he really dislikes my father, but the reality of it is, I don't know how many people truly tell it, but I mean, I was told by my father, it's like, that dude doesn't even know why he's mad. He's a color commentary guy, and me and Vern Gagne and the Grahams and the Von Erichs, we look at all the color commentary guys just the same. You're just color commentary. You're nothing. You're there to tell the story of these other athletes, because if you become too much of a character, then you're going to be promoting yourself on the show and not promoting the talent the way you need to bring the fans. And if you don't bring the fans, we don't make any money. And so Eric Bischoff, from what I understand, had always hated the old school, well, you're just color commentary, because he felt it was disrespectful. So now he's going to take that as a barb, and he's going to hold it forever, and then hate everything that my dad did. And realistically, Eric, I don't have anything bad to say about Eric. I really don't.
You worked for him later. You worked for him later when you went back to WCW.
Well, yeah. Now, if I wanted to be mad at him, right? If I wanted to be mad at him, no. Before I left to go to WWE, it was my dad. Then it was Ole Anderson, and then it was Eric Bischoff. So Eric Bischoff comes in. I can't remember whether it was Augusta, or I can't remember what it was. It was a TV taping, which you got to be there 7 hours early. And we're sitting there, it's sold out, and he wanted to have his first meeting with all the guys, and he was going to do it at this TV. And so he came in, and he voiced things that he didn't like about the predecessor, Cowboy Bill Watts, and all this. So I'm going, oh, this is a phenomenal meeting. I'm so excited. And and then he's doing it. He goes, but I'm gonna tell you, there's things that he did great, and and he goes, and I'm gonna explain something to you. It's the guys that are putting in the time in the ring to learn their art, to learn their craft, that we're going to promote. And that training school, we're going to take attendance. We're going to know who's there, how often they're there. So if you're not on the road and you're getting paid, you need to be at the training center, and blah, blah, blah. And then he looked right at me. He goes, I'm going to tell you this right now. There is no one that is a better example of training ethic in this business than Erik Watts. He wrestles as many or more days than anyone else. He's at the training school. He's got the keys to get in on Saturdays and Sundays, which is all true. And he goes, right. You watch that kid and his business and his ethics to be someone in this business, and you're watching, someone who's going to be a legend one day. And then about 2 weeks later, he took me off TV.
Oh.
so I was like, oh man, because at first I'm like, oh gosh, I know he hates my dad, and I get so tired of the people that think that they're going to get under my skin about my father. First of all, to me, your personal relationship between your boss is that's just business. Now, people that would want to try to take it far and make it personal, I'd let them know, hey, if you make it personal and you take it to like you're talking about my father, now we're gonna have an issue, and you don't want to have an issue. But if you just keep it, if you keep it business, I'm cool. I haven't liked every boss I've been with. I haven't liked every manager above me that I've ever been with. I haven't liked every coach I've had. Okay, so but I would explain what I didn't like about that person within business, right? So here he comes, and he's tooting his horn about what he's going to do and how the last person didn't get it there. The last person didn't get it there. The last person didn't get fired. Cowboy Bill Watts walked into Ted Turner, talked to him about some things, and said, "I'm done." Yep. And I don't want to bring him up, but there was just some stupid things that happened, and he was so pissed off about him that he walks in and goes, "Completely ridiculous what's going on," and left. So it wasn't like a Bill Watts didn't make it. Bill Watts said deuces to them, and he had all the power. I mean, what everyone was truly mad about Bill Watts, when he walked in, he was the president of WCW, and his contract was guaranteed by TBS.
Awesome.
There's only a few people. There's only a few people that were smart enough to have TBS guarantees, because if you were a TBS and you were an employee, you got stock options, health benefits, blah 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 blah. One of the few people that I know that was smart enough to do that was Sting. Sting was contracted from TBS, not WCW. So and it drove Eric Bischoff crazy, because when he came in to take over, they made him vice president, and he was furious. At the very end, he became president, and at the very end, he lost more money than anyone else, and at the very end, he's the reason why WWE owns owns the whole library for $1 million. and I'm talking on business. I'm not talking out of hatred. Like, I like Eric, but at one time I was really like, hey, stand up and tell me exactly how good you were. Because at any other company, right, if you were a CEO of a company, the shareholders would not feel too good about that.
Very cool, very cool. All right, so I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because I know we're a little short on time, but
yep.
I watched another interview you did with the gentleman in Australia, and that interview, I recommend everybody check that out, because that's an incredible conversation. But you guys talked a little bit about it, but I wanted to go over it. WXO was the name of the promotion that Ted DiBiase was trying to get off the ground, and it seemed like you were going to be the guy. You were the one that he was, pushing as the main guy, one of the guys that was going to be the driving force of the promotion. At the same time, you're doing stuff with ECW. That had to be an exciting time for you to be getting pushed by an upstart promotion, while ECW people, for whatever reason, they were seething at you.
Right. So that's so crazy. You did listen to that whole interview, because I believe that guy looked up so much history. It was incredible. But I believe there was a segment when I said, well, and then I wrestled for Ted DiBiase, but I can't remember the name of the organization. I think that was what I said. And I think the guy goes, oh my God, I'm gonna look into that. So you're exactly right. It was the WXO, and how that happened, I can't remember exactly, but Ted DiBiase called me and said, Eric, I'm starting a company, WXO, and we're going to put X number of hours in the can. And for the people out there that don't know what in the can means, is that's anytime you pre-tape something. So if you're going to do 6 hours, 8 hours, you're having it in the can to broadcast. So a lot of people will put it in the can to go shop it and sell it. Well, he had already shopped in the federation and had huge interest. So he flew me down, and we did, I can't remember how many TV tapings, 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, I don't know what it was. And on the last TV taping, they were going to crown a champion. And so they had this tournament and all this other stuff. Ted never talked to me about it. I didn't know anything about it. I get down there, and Ted goes, son, you've earned it. You've done this. You've done that. Blah, 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 blah. We're making you the WXO champion. And I said, oh, my gosh. I mean, it was awesome, you know. Plus all the history of Ted DiBiase and Mid-South Sports and all this other stuff. So I'm like, man, I would be so proud. So the tape goes, okay, boom. So they do the tape and goes, listen, we got to meet with our investors. We got to do this. We got to do this. So it's probably going to be about 2 or 3 months, 4 months before the show starts. So, but once we do, we're going to do house shows and TV tapings and blah, blah, blah. So get ready because it's going to be, we're going to have, you know, huge contract, you know, our contracts, the whole thing. I said, no problem. So I believe I was also helping out on the side, train some people at Dusty Rhodes' company, I believe. TCW. Yeah, I believe. And so I was with Dusty one day and just hanging out in his office, talking to him, just laughing, man, because, I mean, just him and my dad had so much. So every time I came around, it'd be another story of him and my dad, you know. And so we were just sitting back there having a great time. And he goes, hey, baby, let's go down and see Paulie. I said, Paulie? He goes, yeah, Paulie, you got that ECW, baby. I'm like, oh, they're in town? He goes, you know, Center Stage. So he's the one. So my first match ever was at Center Stage, Saturday Night Live. Now, I don't know if I wrestled 50, 60, 80 more times there. I probably did. But it was my first TV taping. And I said, hell yeah, I'll jump down with you. So I jumped down. Well, I guess Dusty didn't say anything about bringing me. I didn't bring any, you know, clothes or nothing like that, which is Rule 101 old school. You don't go anywhere without your ring attire, but I didn't have it on me. And I get there, and I don't know 90% of their cards. And I come out, and Dreamer, Erik Watts. I was like, man, that's about as over as I think I've gotten, right? And he come up, he goes, I watch all your stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm kind of laughing because I used to dig taping ECW, and when I get home, you know, off the road, I watched all ECW stuff. So I knew the guys, I just didn't personally know them, but I felt like I knew them, you know, from watching. So I'm like, I love Dreamer, right?
Right.
And then me and Raven had a million matches when he was Scotty Flamingo, so I already knew Raven, right? Didn't know Sandman. Oh my gosh, biggest fan, right, of Sandman too, and all these got Rhino, all these people, right? So he's like, I didn't know you were coming to the show. I go, well, that makes two of us. And so the next thing you know, here comes Raven, and Raven's just one of a kind. He's a very good friend, but he's just Mr. Different, right? He's like Willy Wonka. He's just different, you know.
Yeah.
And he's like, the Dusty brings the young prodigy, and he starts going to his Raven bullshit. And so then another person comes out, and Dudley comes, Erik Watts, you know, I'm like, what in the hell? So we're all standing there, and Dreamer goes, can I ask you something? Is there any way at the end of the show that you could just come and, like, light me up with a chair and split me open and just leave me in blood in the ring? That's exactly what I go, excuse me? He goes, you know, I watched you. I watch you all the time. I love watching you wrestle. It would just really be cool if you just walk out at the end of the show and just split me open with a fucking chair. I'm like, honest to God, I didn't know what to say. I'm like, well, it would be my honor, right? And so Dream's like, hey, baby, you should do it. Hey, Paulie comes and goes, Erik, what are you doing? And then Dreamer right in front of him goes, hey, Paulie, look at this big son of a... He's so... God dang, man, I didn't know how big he was. Hey, Paulie, I just asked him if he'd walk out at the end of the show and just wrap me with a chair and split me open, just leave me laying at the end of the show. Paulie goes, God, that sounds awesome. I'm thinking to myself, hold on, guys. Haven't you already booked this? Little did I know, that's how things happen at ECW. And things could change 44 times before the end of the show. So sure enough, I'm like, no problem. And which was really odd, you know, because I'd been a good guy and Dreamer was over like hell and all this other stuff. But, so I stuck around to the very end. and whacked the dog crap out of him, split him open, left him laying, and the people went berserk. The guy in the back went berserk. So Paul Lee, as soon as I come out, he goes, "We got to talk." I go, "About what?" He goes, I got to have you. I go, "You got to have me what? I mean, that sounds kind of weird." He goes, "No, like you got to work. You got to work for me." Now Paulie didn't get along with my dad at all, and I really liked Paulie because he's just so brilliant. But he was a shit disturber, and he got in trouble because let's say this, he made up some expenses, put it that way, and got caught. My dad's like, "See, you're just so smart. You are the dumbest smart guy I've met. Like, why would you even take the time to scam, for some money here or there, you dumbass?" So my dad's like, "I don't dislike him because I just don't like, bullshit artists, right?" So, but anyway, Paulie was just brilliant. I loved him. So I'm like, "Well, let's talk, but I got this deal with DVI." He's like, "Oh, I'll call Ted." So basically Ted said, "Sure, you can run him. I don't know whether it's going to be 3, 4, 5, 6 months, but you can run him for some months." And he goes, "But here's the deal. You can't make him look bad, and we got to talk about matches that he's not going over because he's my world champ. And I'm not going to have him be a pigeon, an idiot on your show, and then be my champion. It'll ruin my product." And Paulie's like, "That's not a problem. That's not a problem." And so we work a deal out, and they I think they fly me up, up northeast, up Philly or wherever, and they did the whole hide me in the trunk. No one knows I'm showing up. And then Paulie had set it up to where, I can't remember the guy with the bullhorn there. That guy brought me out. He was going to do the talking, and Paulie was just going to cut a huge promo on me in the ring, and nothing else was going to happen. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be crazy, right?" So I got my gear on, my jeans, my tight shirt, my glasses. I walk in that Philly place. It erupts. I mean, it was deafening. I think I got ear damage to this day. It was off the chain. And when I say kids 6 years old telling me where to stick my privates inside myself, I was like, "Whoa, wow, that's a vocabulary." I'm thinking, I've wanted to be verbally abusive. I just learned something. I think the kids 5, 7, and 9. I don't even think they're brothers. I mean, people were spitting and throwing shit. I get in there, and Paulie does just an unbelievable job. It seemed like a 10-minute rant of just what a piece of shit my dad was. And then he hated me, and what a fucking idiot. And all I did was I kept on walking back and forth and pulling the ropes, acting like I was mad. And I absolutely loved every second of it because he was such a mastermind. The people were going crazy. So then I come back, and now here comes political nightmare. So Paulie's like, "Eric, we are going to sell shit out, from dusk till dawn with you, blah, blah, blah." Well, he starts putting some stuff together. So he said, "Hey, pay-per-view next." So I go to Birmingham or something like that for a pay-per-view. Get there, I'm all excited to find out what I'm going to do. I'm told they were going to put me in a program, I think, with Dreamer. And next thing you know, showtime's coming 6 hours later, and they pull me from the card.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Eric, we just can't figure out who you're going to go with first." I go, "What do you mean?" They go, "Well, Rhino wants you. Raven wants you. Dreamer wants you. Sandman wants you. Bala wants you. They all want you. You're so freaking over-the-top hot right now." And we just figured out, I said, "Bro, come on. Don't kill yourselves. You just named 5 people. That's a year of stuff. Run me through everybody.
Right.
Just keep me hot enough that you guys are selling out. I don't care what we do. This is fun as heck, And so that kept on going for a while, right? And so then I ended up having to leave there because of it. At the very end, I was happy. I was waiting, but they just kept on stepping on their toes about who to wrestle and who not to wrestle. And then I'd heard some rumors about Paulie getting way behind on talent. And as I started to get to know, you know, I'm running the road with Sonny and her husband at the time, and you know, and Chris. You know, I was with Chris right before he died in Orlando. You know, at the WCW thing. You know, and he's doing so good, man. And that Spiral, just brutal. I left out. I had to go back to where I can't remember where I was going. I had to left out. I had to leave that TV taping one day early. It was the next night. He was my roommate. It was the next night when he had the spinal fracture and died. Yeah, brutal. Put it this way: me and him, just goofballs about our girls. We're like, man, you know what? Valentine's Day's coming up, or whatever's coming up. I mean, we gotta go get, you know, something for the girls. And the only place that we could find in short notice was Walgreens or Eckerd's. And Sonny, she loves frogs. I think she's got a tattoo of one or something like that. So he found a stuffed frog with a heart in it. And I found like a little gorilla with a heart in it. And so he wasn't drinking or anything, right? And so I got a 12-pack of beer, and I got my ape, and then he's got the frog, and they both are holding these hearts that say "I love you." I put it up there. I put the stuff up there. I look at the guy, and he's looking at us. I'm like, you know, he's probably like, this is Candido and Watts. And I started looking. I go, no, that's not what the guy's looking at. I go, hey, bro, we're not together. The guy goes, I said, as a matter of fact, the beer and the monkey thingy, that's on mine. The frog's on his. He was in such tears. I thought snot blew out of his nose, but it hit me. I'm like, this guy's like, who are these two freaks coming in here buying a 12-pack of beer and stuffed animals for each other? So yeah, so that was my last thing. But you know, those guys work so hard, and ECW and just like TNA, when I wrestled with TNA, I've never seen two federations where people were literally willing to put their lives on the line every single night to show their love for the business, to show WCW, WWE that they're missing out, that there's talent that they wouldn't look at due to size or what have yous, and they were willing to put it all on the line. It just really gets under my skin when people start not paying the athletes. And so right at the very end, because I felt so blessed because I was getting paid and I had contracts. I was always getting paid, and it got short, and he got really short on money on me. And I said, bro, it's not me anymore. You got to pull everyone straight, or I'm done. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. How can I get paid being flown in? These guys are driving. They're not making 1/10. A lot of these guys were making hardly anything. I'm flying in doing this, that, you know. There were stories. I can't remember. Someone told me one time, like Mick Foley or one of those guys one time came into a dressing room when he's, you know, wrestling there and like paid off a lot of the guys, caught him up. And I'm like, this is crazy. So I had to make a statement because I told him, I said, listen, if everyone's not paid up before this pay-per-view, I'm done. I love you. I appreciate it. And Paulie called me 20 times. Oh, Eric, I promise. And the money's right around the corner. I said, no, it's not. These kids been hearing it. So, I just when people didn't get caught up, I just said, man, I appreciate it, but I'm good. Yeah. You
got time for just a couple more questions?
Yep.
I'll try and keep it shorter for you here.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm up in the mountains anyway, and I was running about 30 minutes behind, so I'm good.
Oh, cool. My favorite time in watching it, like I said, I was probably about 10 or 11 years old watching on WCW. But my favorite time of your career was your time in TNA. The stuff you did with the promos and everything, you were... I mean, and I'm going to say this, and it's weird that you mentioned it in the other interview. You seemed, maybe because the other guys on the roster were so much smaller, you just seemed massive. You seemed like you were so much bigger than everybody else on the roster.
Right.
I mean, gosh, what was your thoughts on finally getting to cut promos and really show your personality as well as wrestle in NWA TNA.
Yeah, that's 100% Vince Russo and Jeff Jarrett, right? So Russo I had met when I was at WWF because he's the dude that would interview the new talent to put it in the magazine. But I didn't remember it. You know, I mean,
right.
It was one article. You know, I never saw the guy again, right? So real quick story. So my dad's at WWE now after WCW, long after WCW. He's at WWE, and he's the guy in charge. And now this story comes from Vince. Now I heard the story, but Vince told me the story. So Vince was sitting outside, and they were having one of those huge booking meetings, right? And then he was going to come in after the booking meeting and go over some stuff, I believe, with Vince about the magazine and the direction of the magazine, right? Mm-hmm. And so my dad didn't really know Vince that well. It comes out, starts talking to him. What do you do? Da-da, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know, Mr. Watts, editor, da-da. And he's like talking to him. He goes, so what are your thoughts of the show? And he goes, well, sir, I don't speak my mind on the show because I know my place. He goes, well, I know my place, and if I ask you a question, you need to answer it. So I can imagine Vince sitting down. My dad I think he was going out to use the restroom. Now he's just like blowing this dude up, right? And he goes, I think you're exactly right. I think a lot of your ideas are valid. I think these guys in there don't know what the hell they're talking about. He goes, so you know what? I'm tired of hearing their stupid shit. You're coming in. And he's like, no, I can't. He goes, I will be fired. I will be harassed. My life will become hell. He goes, well, it's either you worry about all these, people fucking with you, or you worry about me. He goes, I can promise you, you should be more worried about me. And Vince said, so Vince goes, okay. So Vince goes in there, and my dad goes, speak your mind. And spoke, and my dad goes, you're now on the writing team. And Vince was right. People were pissed. But he said, hey, Eric, had your dad not seen something in me? Had your dad not seen something special in me, I would have never seen that part of the business. Okay, so think about that. So now I have decided in my life, I've got 2 companies that I've been running that I've built while I was wrestling. My speaking engagements, motivational speaking engagements are blowing up. They're doing fantastic. And so I'd come to the conclusion, I'm like, okay. So I talked to my wife, I'm like, you know what, listen, I love wrestling more than anything. But just recently, it's like sticking a square to a round hole. Because I just dealt with freaking Eric Bischoff because he wanted to bring me back. So I come back. I said, I'll come back, but I'm wearing whatever the frick I want to wear, doing what I want to do. And he said, great. So I come on for 2 shows, and I decided, I was at a place, I don't know if you remember back in the day, you might be too young, there's a place called Hot Topics. And
It still exists. Yeah, it's still out there.
So I was shopping at this place called Hot Topics. I'm like, this is some crazy, out of the ordinary, rad shit. And so I'm like, I see these jeans with, like this big yellow thing down the back of them, some tight shirts. Matter of fact, what's ironic is I was in the best shape of my life. And that's when I decided to cover up some, but not for any reason. It just, I wanted the look. I wanted jeans. I wanted the shirt. I wanted, these boots. So I said, this is what I'm wearing. And as a matter of fact, I loved my zip-up boots from WWE, so sometimes I'd wear it. And so if you ever get a chance, if you ever see any of those last old matches, sometimes you Techno Team 2000, just the 0 you might see down on it. But my point was to show that I wanted. So I come back, I sign a deal, I'm on, Bischoff's excited, everyone's excited, blah, 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 two TV shows, do my shit, and I get a call. Can you change your outfit? I was like, what do you, after all this, right? Hey, have his work ethic, do this. At this point I've been WWE, all this, and you're going to sit there and that's what you've got to say? not incredible shape. I put my hair in a two-tiered ponytail, glasses on, came out as a heel, wanted to do that forever, and just having a freaking blast. And that's your response. So it was actually Dallas Page that called me, that Erik asked Dallas to call me because me and Dallas are so tight. I said, I got to be honest with you. I'm not changing shit.
Yep.
And he goes, bro, they love everything you're doing. I said, well, they don't love everything I'm doing because I'm the one that designed the outfit. I'm the one that picked out the outfit, and I'm the one wearing the outfit. I said, so that's what I'm doing. They're not WWE. They didn't make the costumes. They didn't write up anything. They didn't trademark anything. This is Erik Watts now. And the reason why I told you that is so I ran one of my own shows in Tulsa, Oklahoma to do a charity. And so I got some WCW guys. I got some other guys. And then I called Vince McMahon, which everyone says Vince is impossible, and he's not. Asked him if I could have some people. He sent me all the people I wanted to do the show.
Wow.
I do all the promotions from Atlanta, Georgia. I flew in to do one show, one time only in Tulsa, and this was I can't remember what year it was. We did $38,000 in ticket sales, sold out.
Wow.
To the rafters. I mean, I had I brought back all Dr. Death, Terry Bam Bam Gordy, Michael Hayes, all these people. So part of the deal was Vince goes, hey, I want to send a few other people down to get some work. I said, sure. So they send these two kids I've never met in my life. And Prince, what was his name? Prince Albert, Prince with the nose ring.
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
Albert, A-Train, yeah.
Okay.
Matt Bloom is his real name, yeah.
Nicest guy in the world. He comes up to me back, he goes, E. Watts. I go, yeah, man. He goes, I got these two kids that Vince was talking about. I said, yeah. He goes, they're really good. What do you want them to do? I said, da-da-da. We talked about it, because I was booking the show. And he goes, Matt, Jeff, come here. And these two kids come up to me. He goes, talk to them. They looked. So now I know that there's something they want to talk about, but I don't know what the hell it is. And they look at me and they go, sir, we've been wanting to ask you because we've been taught, not to steal gimmicks, not to steal moves. So would there be any way that we could use your outfits at WWE?
Oh,
Bro,
wow.
when I say I was laughing so hard. But now listen to me. They're not Matt and Jeff Hardy yet. They're just Matt and Jeff Hardy. They haven't even blown up yet, right? And I'm thinking to myself, I didn't give a shit whether the kids made it or didn't. I was laughing so hard, so I'm like, well, sure you can. I got some more designs, right? And so then I don't know if you remember, they came out in the pants, the shirt,
and the tight shirts, right?
That was all off my character. And so I called up Paige one time. I said, ask Bischoff how he likes the Hardy's outfits, mother. Because bleep, bleep, bleep. I was so pissed. And that's just that to me is the small thinking. But to bring it all together, right? So, and the same thing happened in Japan. Japan, I brought my outfit I wanted, but I put trunks in my bag because I know Japan's old school. And so I was over there, and after the first night, there's a guy named Wrongway. He's the bus driver, but he's also the office for the Japan. So because they put him with the gaijins, they put him with Americans to tell all the gossip or who's being good or bad on the bus and all that shit. And anyone that's smart knows it. So he'd been running the buses back from when my dad was there. So I remember I walked in the bus, and one way goes, Eric-san, very, very good. You remind me of your father. I'm thinking, no, I didn't beat up anyone that bad, but I tried to. And and he's like, but maybe you have trunks, like trunks. I'm thinking like, do you mean like trunks that everyone here wears? And I don't ask me why. Don't ask me why. But I don't know. I just told myself I'm not doing it. And I said nope. And I went to the back of the bus. a guy by the name of Johnny Ace, very important, number one guy in Japan, comes back to the back of the bus. And this is my first night there. He goes, "Can I ask you something?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Now tell me the truth, because I need to know this. Did you bring trunks? Because I guarantee you brought trunks, because you're old school. So you would not just try an outfit, even though your outfit was in America. You wouldn't come to Japan without trunks." I go, "Yeah, I have trunks." He goes, "You, God Almighty." He goes, "You might be a chip off your dad's shoulder." I'm like laughing. I go, "Sir, I'm sorry. I'll put the trunks on." He goes, "Oh no." He goes, "I just had to know." Now, at that time, I heard how important Johnny was, but I'm thinking, okay, I hope that he doesn't tell Miss Baba or anything like that, you know. And so, me and Johnny became so tight. Johnny loved it. He goes, "No one has ever come and worn an outfit like that." And, you know, people were giggling once or twice when I went out, but I kept it going, and then I got over as hell. Why I'm trying to tell you all this is, so now now I am like, okay, I tried my hardest. I love wrestling. I'm doing really well with my own company, the motivational speaking. I want to wrestle, but man, I'm not going to have people tell me what to wear and not wear. I mean, come on, tell me to get better at wrestling or I don't know. Give me something else. Give me something new, not the outfit. Right. So I get a call, and I answered. I do this all the time. I answer numbers that I don't notice. And there's a guy named Vince Russo. "Hey, Eric." "Yeah." And he's like, "This is Vince." "Vince who?" "It's Vince Russo." I said, "Sir?" And he goes, "Yeah, Vince Russo." He goes, "You know who I am?" I go, "You ever seen TNA?" "What?" He's like, "Wrestling." I go, "No." He goes, "Well, we've been wrestling for 2 or 3 years, whatever," he said, you know, or 2 years, 1 year, whatever the hell it is. And it's Wednesdays, and he goes, "Would you like to come see?" I go, "No. I just promised my wife, I think this morning, that I'm going to hang up my boots wrestling." He goes, "Well, you don't have to wrestle. I'm just saying, would you come watch the show?" And I go, "Why?" And he goes, "I just think that you're going to be intrigued." And then he goes, "Can I tell you this? Did I ever tell you the story about your dad?" And that's when he told me the story about my dad pulling him aside. So he said, I said, "Well, what's the angle?" He goes, "Well, Jeff is looking. This is the time when they kept on teasing Hogan's coming, and all this."
Right.
He said, you know, he doesn't know if Hogan's is coming. He hasn't set up his next big angle, and he wanted to find someone that the wrestling fans would know, but hasn't been on TV of WWE, WCW just in the last 6 months, a year. So I said, "Well, I'm not interested in wrestling, but I'll come check the show out." So I drove up and watched the show. I'm gonna tell you. So I got there and I said, "I want to see where I can just watch the show by myself." So there's this little perch. You go through this little spot, rafters, and at the very end they have this little covered area where literally you can watch the show and the people can't see you. And I've told the story a few times, and it means the same thing to me every time. From the time the music hit till the last match, I don't even remember if I took a breath. My mouth, I had lockjaw. My mouth was open. Half these guys I've never even heard of before. Match.
I think I'm losing you a little bit. Nope, I lost him.
Erik Watts.
To accept, press 1.
So I kind of blew up that half-hour thing, didn't I?
Yeah. Hey, we'll finish here in a few minutes. So let me. I'll end off where I was at. So
sure. No. I'm loving what you're doing. I feel bad because I don't. I remember. I'll tell you a quick story. Vader asked me how long I was going to be, and I said I'll aim for a half hour. We went 36 minutes. About a half hour after the interview, he called me up and said, "What the F did you keep me the extra 6 minutes for?" And he was real pissed off about 6 minutes. I'm thinking, it literally was just 6 minutes, but
No, I know we went over, but I told you once. I said I was in the car. I said I don't mind it as much, but I will give you like 5 more minutes. But I'll finish the story, and you can sign us off. Okay?
Absolutely,
so,
sure.
Are you?
I'm recording. Everything's good to go. Yes, sir.
Okay, so So anyway, so my mouth, it just dropped. I didn't know what to say, didn't know what not to say, went out to the car, and I'm just waiting. I'm just thinking, and all I can think is, I have to be a part of this. And then the next thing I thought is, how am I going to talk to my wife about this that I just said? Listen, we gotta make a commitment, because by myself, there's no way I can stay out of wrestling. But I think it's time for me to do the motivation speaking. We got the other paint company, the turnkey company. I got so many things to do other than wrestle, but it's just my love. I need your support and help to make sure that we stay focused and that I just move on. It's like, I mean, it was so fresh within 4 or 5 days. Now I drive up there, and so Vince comes out and he goes, "What do you think?" I said, "It's not what I think, okay? Whatever it takes, let's get the agreement, let's get the money right. I got to be a part of this." He goes, "What?" I go, "I got to be a part." And he just smiled and hugged me. And so later on, if you want to have another one, you call me back and we'll talk about it, because the chaos in the back was so effing crazy. It reminded me of ECW, but I was at TNA a lot longer. It was chaos. It was the craziest thing ever. And that's what I think actually made the chemistry of ECW, and I think that's what made the chemistry of TNA, because you never really knew what was going to happen or who was going to be upset, or and all this other stuff. So when they put me in there, bro, it was Jeff's like, "Hey, you're gonna kick my ass. You're gonna drag me behind a car," which I chained him up and actually drug him behind a car out in the parking lot. And then all of a sudden he's like, "I don't want to wrestle Eric. I didn't know he's," and this is what Vince said. He goes, "I didn't know he's that tall." I'm thinking to myself, listen, I fluctuated from 260 to 290. I've changed my hair from maybe blonde to black a few times, 2-tiered ponytail. But there's one thing I know about me since about effing 14 years old. I've been 6'6". I mean, and that has not changed ever. And I remember the times. Shit, I remember the times me and Jeff and Road Dogg were at Bret Hart's house after a match, getting hammered, and we had another show to do the next day, but we wanted to watch some WrestleMania matches in his house and drink all night. So, I mean, I know Jeff knows me. I know Jeff, and all of a sudden, so it went right back to that Eric Bischoff thing. Can you change your outfit? And I'm like, you know what? I just went and ate crow with my wife. I signed an agreement. I want to be a part of this. And we're 3 or 4 weeks in. Things are getting hot and heavy. And that's what he wants to do. And so I said, "Vince," he goes, "Eric, don't do it." I said, "Vince, I'm going to tell you this. I don't have the time, MFer. I mean, I said, I should kick your ass. I said, dude, I didn't know you guys were this messed up. You guys call me. You guys do this." And that's what Jeff has to say. I said, "That's pathetic." And so I was pissed. I was like, actually, I was like, I should take this out on Jeff. But I'm like, nah. So he goes, "Well, it gets worse. If you don't quit, he's gonna try to make you quit." I said, "What?" I said, "I'm not 3 years old." I said, "Oh." He goes, "No, Jeff's just that way." I said, "So now he just doesn't want me on the show." He's like, "No, we don't want you on the show." I go, "So what are we doing? You guys don't do traveling or anything?" He goes, "Well, we got the I can't remember. You'll remember the live show.
Explosion is the name of the show. Yeah, the
Explosion.
Saturday morning. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So Vince goes. "Let me ask you, Eric." He goes, "How are you on the mic?" I go, "I'm the best in the business." He goes, "So you've done this before?" He goes, "So you've done the mic before?" I go, "No, I've never done it." He goes, "What do you mean you've never done it?" I said, "I never got the chance. No one would let me. I was always told what to do, not to do, and how to do it." I said, "I will crush the mic." And he goes, I swear to God, he looked at me like, "I believe you. We're going to get you on the mic, and Jeff's going to put you on this explosion show, and it takes the first 30 minutes before the show, or first hour before the show, and then you're done. And but I want you to stay the whole time, and blah 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 blah." And he goes, "And I'm gonna drive Jeff crazy with it." I said, "Sign me up twice." And so I don't know, man. It seemed like, honestly, overnight. Maybe back then, because I was so pissed off. It might have taken a month. It might have taken maybe a month. And I started dropping all my stuff. This is in the asylum. This is Watts' world. This is and everything was what's up, what's happening, 666 and sexy, and this is all those. I started dropping all that shit, and these fans are eating it up, and I'm supposed to be a bad guy. And so I'll end the story with this, and then we can pick up some other time if you want to. But
I'd love to.
This is when it paid off. So we get in the car. I got chill bumps right now talking about it. Get in the car, and Vince now is so hilarious. He's picking up on my one-liners, and he's using them in the van on the way back and all. If he calls me, he says, "What's up, 6'6" and sexy?" What's up? And then he'll try using me all the time to this day. So he said, "You're not gonna believe this." I go, "What?" He said, "So, Jeff comes in, toward, a little running. What's going on? Got 10 things to do. Tell me what's going on. Tell me tell me my interviews. What spots do I have? Who am I wrestling? How long do you want? Jeff. Jeff's got his own little dressing room, and Jeff is just being Jeff. And so Vince is back there talking to Jeff, and while Jeff goes, "Holy shit, Vince, you didn't tell me the show started." And Vince goes, "The show didn't start." He goes, "Yes, it does. I know when the show starts. The music hits, the intro, and then the crowd back here when the show starts." He goes, "The show doesn't start for another 15 minutes." He goes, "Vince, you're full of shit." And he goes, "So what's that?" And he goes, "That's Erik Watts." And he goes, "What do you mean that's Erik Watts?" He goes, "Have you not been listening out there the last 3-4 weeks?" He goes, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "That's every time Erik Watts goes out." He goes, "Bullshit." He left. He went out. He opened the curtain, looked, came back, which he's got a monitor in his room. So I don't know why he didn't just turn it on, but whatever. This Vince told me. He said Jeff came back to him. He goes, "Are you shitting?" He goes, "Jeff, he is the most over talent we have at TNA. He is the fans' favorite. He's number one. Period." And Jeff goes, "We got to get him back on the show." But he did. What happened was he didn't like the way I was cutting promos against him, and so Vince was saying that it was eating his ass about my promos. So he's like, "Hey, yeah, and you got to tag him with me. I want to be out there when he cuts the promos on the other guy." So there's so much more to the story that's not even funny, but that's kind of how.
Man.
That's how the world goes around. I just got so tired of hearing it and hearing it and hearing it. I wasn't going to give up. It's just bull. It's bull crap. And the payoff is when you take your critics, when you take your critics and you prove them wrong that day. If you're really doing an honest job, a good job, a hard job, and you're busting your butt and you're giving life all you got, right? Mm-hmm. You shouldn't have a critic. But if you have a critic and you're doing everything you can do, the great thing is when those critics give you your acknowledgement, and that lets you know that that you did the best you can, and you outsmarted, or you proved to people that through hard work and determination you can overcome anything. So that was very, very important to me, and that's why TNA meant so much to me for that. And again, Jeff, like I said, 2 main reasons I was there: Jeff Jarrett and Vince. And so I appreciate it.
All right, last question for you, in case we don't get a chance to ever do one again. What does Erik Watts do these days? What is Erik Watts' life like these days?
Okay, so I was doing some business consulting for the last 7 years, 8 years, because of my own company, sold, motivation speaking, all the stuff. So went into consulting for a while, working with some companies. About 6 months ago, I took a reprieve from the last company I was with, and start doing my own ventures again. I didn't want to because you down geographically to where you're at. So, like I had a paint company. Well, if you went up and moved from Atlanta to Tempe, Arizona, now you got to restart that paint company name. You follow me? And then you got to be worried about all the people that you have on payroll, how they're doing. So I thought, and I have put together my first merchant processing company, and it's called Positively. I'll just call you, and if you could give a promotion just to feed out. So one of the companies that I'm building is basically anyone that's $30,000 a month and higher.
Beautiful.
But either credit cards can not pay the payments. They can push it forward and let the customers pay the payments. So there's some good technology out there now. And so I'm just going to work with companies that want to cut their cost on credit cards, which is awesome. And then I'm going to work on a few other things that I've been meaning to work. But that's going to be my first venture of my own, is Positively Processing in the merchant processing world.
Beautiful, man. Well, I want to thank you for taking this much time. I know I took up a lot more of your time than I promised I would, but this was a lot of fun, and I thank you so much for taking that much time with me.
I had a blast, my friend.
All right. Hey, you probably know what I'm going to ask, but do you mind if I ask for one last thing?
Hit.
Do you mind if I ask you to say this is Erik Watts, and you're listening to the Wrestling Epicenter?
That's right. Well, this is Erik Watts. And you're what? Well, you said what? You said professional wrestling?
Wrestling Epicenter. Wrestling Epicenter.
Okay. Wrestling Epicenter. Got it. Okay, ready? This is Erik Watts. You're listening to the Wrestling Epicenter.
Beautiful, man. I thank you so much. I'll let you get on with your day, and apologize to your girlfriend for me. I apologize for taking so much of your time.
Believe it or not, she's been through it once or twice.
All right. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Hey, when you get done with the audio and you splice it up and do all that, could you drop me, if I give you my email, could you drop it in a zip file or something like that to me?
Sure, I could do that. I'll send you a link to it. I'm going to put it up on YouTube. I'm going to put it up on the website, and I'll email you through an MP3 of it. Sure.
Yeah, so until I get my company stuff done, send it to Erik, E-R-I-K, Watts, W-A-T-T-S, 80 at yahoo.com.
Erik Watts 80 at yahoo.com. There you go. Did you know that there's another Erik Watts wrestling right now?
Well, there was that one. There was the one that was WWE for a while. The black guy, right?
Yeah, he's a black guy. Another guy, and Erik Watts did an interview. My wife contacted me. She said, "You're not going to believe this. Somebody else just interviewed Erik Watts." And I looked at the interview, and I'm like, "That's the one I'm interviewing is a little different."
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. That's crazy. What a small world.
There you go. I appreciate it, man. I will send you that email. Thank you so much.
Thanks, bro. Bye-bye.
You got it. Bye-bye.
The preceding announcement was paid for by the Wrestling Epicenter.
I'm to listen, and if you like what you heard, I'm glad. If you didn't like what you heard, well, go fuck yourself.
Most people don't hung up on me.
We had a lovely conversation.
What a show.
Oh, mercy, Daddy. On the radio dial.
Don't hang up. Bye-bye.